G'day guys and gal. Despite being a fundamental part of the galaxy, the true emergence of chaos in the current setting took everyone by surprise. For some, it toppled their entire empire and pushed them to the brink of extinction. For others, it was a mild inconvenience, and for a select few, it was the best day of their life. But regardless of what the reaction was, it made for some pretty dope lore that we'll cover today. Before we get started, I'll let you in on a little secret. Despite it being Orktober, Ork models don't sell super well, which is why Major Minis only has a couple. But sometimes it's not about making the most amount of sales. Sometimes it's about letting out your inner wah and having a bit of fun. Ork players deserve that much at least. So with that said, we still have about 40% of the VIP Ork limited launch stock remaining. Usually we like to sell out of the limited launches over the weekend, but that's because we usually don't make the launch Ork themed. The limited models are the Ork Warlord, which is my favorite. The detail is insane and he is an absolute juggernaut. A real centerpiece of any Ork army, as well as the Ork War Machine, a more detailed and realistic version of the King Ork. Both models come with various weapon variants, with the Ork War Machine having 2 head variants. They also come in 3 different scales. Tabletop if you want to fit them into your armies, 75mm scale if you want the details to be bigger for easier painting, or just have them as even bigger units in your army, as well as the 112 scale, which are massive and are more like statues than miniatures. In saying that, the most lore-friendly size for the Ork War Machine is actually the 112 scale, just saying. On top of these, this month we've also rolled out the Ork Spider Truck, the Ork Gigamech, and we have the King Ork and Ork Demon Killer already a part of the range. I committed hard for October, even if it didn't pay off that well. Link to pick up the limited Orks or any major mini Orks is below. Today we'll go over how each faction reacted to their first encounter with chaos. Now let's get into it. Now for some context, chaos has been a force in the galaxy since before the War in Heaven. However, its power has ebbed and flowed many times. Just before the War in Heaven, the Old Ones, Necrontyr, and other races clapped Chaos's cheeks pretty hard. Then after the War in Heaven, the galaxy was mostly at peace and the Elder Gods ruled the warp, so once again Chaos was suppressed and contained. It's only with the fall of the Elder, who safeguarded against Chaos, as well as the Horus heresy, which gave Chaos the real space power it needed to become a threat again, has Chaos officially re-emerged. But it didn't re-emerge for everyone at the same time. Some races encountered it later than others, so it's not like a group email went out to everyone announcing that spiky demons that loved blood and rape were back on the menu. With that said, how did the Imperium react to the emergence of chaos? With total shock. The Emperor decreed that there were no gods or angels or demons, and everyone believed him. Sure, people were sus of the warp and what lurked within, however even the most knowledgeable, like Horus, merely believed the creatures of the warp to be isolated parasites or predators, not truly sentient. No one could comprehend that there was entire civilizations of demons and entities living in the warp under the rule of dark powerful gods. With the Imperium so vast, obviously there were so many reactions of what happened from all the scattered Imperial forces during the heresy, as they each encountered chaos in their own way, but here are some of the best. When the Ultramarines were betrayed by the Wordbearers on Calth, they had demons and foul sorcery unleashed upon them. So they did what the Ultramarines do. They used as much common sense as possible. They saw that blades and fire worked greater than bolt gun and missile, deducing that they were fighting creatures of myth and legend, thus weapons of myth and legend would work better. They forced the nonsensical to make sense, and then they destroyed it. The White Scars and Blood Angels both had a similar reaction to chaos. Rage. The Blood Angels' rage was inflicted upon them like a disease, forcing them to destroy every single demon on an entire world while Sanguinius destroyed the demonic commanders. The Khan on the other hand was more of a cold fury. As he slaughtered the demons sent for him, he said, "I now have your sent demon, and I will hunt you to the end of time." It was actually pretty bone-chilling. They were upset that the Emperor had seemingly lied. There was indeed supernatural creatures led by organized sentient forces, but they were more upset at the demons themselves. The Lion was quite nonchalant about demons, having fought the corrupted beasts of Caliban as a child. He simply said, interesting. Librarians can now use warp powers again, since that seems to be the best weapon against these fiends. As for the traitor Primarchs, they were sort of forced to accept Chaos as an ally. Even Mortarion, who despised the warp and sorcery, knew he had no choice but to accept it, as if he didn't, his legion would be alone. Hated by all. He even tried to dominate Chaos, justifying that if he managed to do so, it would be different and he wouldn't be this hypocrite, but that just ended with him turning into a big smelly moth demon. Some of his Death Shroud, his elite Terminator honor guard, after he started using the warp. Perturabo likewise was disgusted by Chaos and actively purged it from his legion. However, he eventually decided that it could be used as an effective weapon. Some Primarchs were a lot more clued in on Chaos than others, so they weren't as surprised. Corvus already knew of it, thus didn't take long to adjust to the new reality of the galaxy and rust just like likes killing things. Sure, the Space Wolves were shocked by the warp's influence during the burning of Prospero, with some even dying from the sheer horror of it all, but most of the wolves handled it well and fought on. For Imperial citizens, it was obviously a lot worse. Many of them were easily corrupted or driven insane. However, some did actually manage to flee worlds that had fallen without themselves being corrupted. The only Imperials that took chaos in their stride were the Custodies and Sisters of Silence, who fought the forces of hell without a single moment of hesitation. How about the Eldar? Well, we can say that for the Eldar, chaos emerged during their fall, when Slaanesh was born and destroyed their empire. They didn't all actually know how bad Slaanesh's birth was going to be, otherwise they wouldn't have done it. Some had a pretty good idea though. The Exodites fled early and escaped to far-off Maiden Worlds. The Craft Elders saw the corruption and attempted to evacuate as many uncorrupted Eldar as possible to spirit them away from the oncoming calamity. The Dark Eldar were just lucky that they were living in the Webway at the time of the fall. Some Eldar remained pure but refused to abandon their people. For example, when the fall began, a number of Eldar smiths blessed by Vol created a super weapon that they used to try kill Slaanesh. Despite it hurting her, it failed and they were slaughtered. Even the most depraved of the Eldar were horrified when the fall began, their reaction that of terror as they were being torn apart by demons and consumed. The emergence of chaos drove the Eldar to the brink of extinction and continues to plague them to this day, with Slaanesh having a claim on their souls. Well, I suppose now a contested claim with the awakening of Yened. The Tau were a funny one. As their empire was far away from chaos strongholds and their souls were weak, thus didn't attract the attention of chaos, they didn't encounter chaos until quite recently. Even then, when Commander Farsight first fought the demons of Khorne, he thought they were a strange, aggressive Xeno race that had impressive teleportation technology, as evident by them being able to materialize and then vanish when killed. Overall, it was a bit of a that was fucking weird, instead of an existential crisis of the revelation of hell existing that most other races faced. The horror of chaos has been slowly creeping up on the Tau, especially when the Death Guard almost breached the Star-Tide Nexus, which would have ended in the heart of the Tau Empire being sieged and polluted, as well as Farsight's semi-regular encounters with Khorne, who has taken a liking to him. How about the Necrons? Well, as stated, the Necrons fought and beat chaos as the Necron tier, and now they are even more powerful in their immortal robotic forms. The Necrons have a lot of weapons to use against chaos and are highly immune to chaotic effects, such as corruption, psychic attacks, and so on. So upon awakening and seeing chaos as quite powerful, they were annoyed but not worried. Like coming back to your holiday house to see a rat infestation. Sure, it's fucking annoying, but after a good old-fashioned extermination session and a bit of a renovation, the house will be back in order. Some Necrons, like Trazyn, actively like fucking with chaos as they can be quite predictable, whilst others exterminate them with extreme prejudice. This isn't to say that chaos can't threaten the Necrons. A number of Tomb Worlds have been destroyed by the forces of chaos. However, since they already knew of chaos, had already beaten chaos, and continue to beat chaos, it's a bit of a whatever for them. The Orcs had been over the moon since chaos emerged and became a threat. Like the Orcs, chaos gets down and dirty in a fight. They don't use airstrikes and snipers and other boring methods of war that often. They charge in with their axes, screaming their war cries. The opening of the Great Rift, which the Orcs have nicknamed Gork's Grin, has made the Orcs even happier, as they will fly into the Great Rift and often be spat out at spicy war zones, an Orc's wet dream. Orcs are also mostly immune from chaos or its effects, so they aren't really bothered by it. Chaos literally has nothing to offer the Orcs, which chaos finds infuriating. The Orcs have actually emerged as some of the greatest counters to chaos in the current setting, fighting them at almost every turn. The Tyranids didn't take much notice of chaos when they first entered the galaxy. They targeted dense population centers, mostly Imperial or Tau sectors, and generally steered clear of heavily chaos-corrupted areas. This is because the hive mind was tactical. It knew that hunting down Necron tomb worlds or demon worlds was going to end in a net loss of biomass, but hunting down Imperial or Tau worlds, yummy yummy for my tummy. However, when the Great Rift opened, which is when chaos actually became a genuine threat, the hive mind ate shit hard, with the psychic backblow actually knocking it out for a while, before it then managed to restart itself. Upon reawakening, it refocused on chaos as a major threat. In turn, it then created a new anti-chaos Hive Fleet Kronos, which contained way more ranged weaponry, as well as a more powerful shadow in the warp presence. Kronos now hunts chaos worlds and fleets, doing what it can to suppress chaos and even destroy it. The Leagues of Votann, as always, are a bit starved in the lore at the moment. However, if you look at the Great Rift map, it shows it absolutely fucking up the middle of the galaxy, which is where the Leagues live, and many people theorize this is why they are making themselves known. They are being displaced. Overall, I'd say they aren't the biggest fans either. If you enjoyed the video and you want to support the channel, then pick up one of the limited edition Orcs. When these sell out, they will never come back, so don't miss out. Hit the subscribe button and hit the real subscribe button for more chaotic content. Join the Discord for more memes, and I'll see you on the next one. Peace.